Hi, let's talk about the basic rules of punctuation, especially the rules of punctuation involving quotation marks. Just the basics. The first rule is that we're using quotation marks around another person's exact words. For example, in this dialogue, but what about us? So let's put quotation marks around, but what about us? And since the person is asking a question, we'll put the quotation mark outside the question mark. Next, we need words to identify who the person is who's speaking or being quoted. But what about us? Asked Ilsa. Now here's the way the dialogue actually looks in the film.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon, for the rest of your life.
What about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
I said I would never leave you.
And you never will. And I've got a job to do too.
So we start that with a quotation mark. We'll always have Paris. Let's just go to the end of that first sentence, change that period to a comma, put our identifying words in there. We'll always have Paris said Rick. Okay, now the quote continues, and so we'll put in a new quotation mark to show where it continues. We got it back last night, and that's the end of what that character says. Now, since we're switching characters again, we start a new paragraph, a new set of quotation marks, and I said I would never leave you, comma, let's identify the character, said Ilsa, and new paragraph, since we're switching back to the first, to the other character, to Rick, quote, and you never will, period on the inside, quotation mark. Okay, and that's pretty much, aside from the extra quotation mark, that's pretty much all there is to it. Now let's go to the very difficult matter of the things that we can add to dialogue as writers. What can we add to the bare words? It's very different from a movie where all of those things are done for us. In a movie, the director and the actors and actresses and the cameraman, special effects, do a great deal to add all of the mood and setting and so forth. But now here's the way the dialogue actually looks in the film.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon, for the rest of your life.
What about us?
We have to put some of those things in ourselves. Although, again, we must go back to a certain basic tenet, and that's that strong dialogue, for the most part, speaks for itself simply with he said and she said. But we need a few of the other things. Let's take a look. Now, we're not going to improve this basic dialogue, certainly, but we can see how adding some of the basics works. The first thing that we can do, of course, is to add a setting. Something like a cold fog blew across the runway of the Casablanca airport, where Ilsa and Rick stood. Okay. Gives us a little something of a setting anyway. The next thing that we can add is the character's movements and gestures. But what about us? Asked Ilsa. Oh, let's see. Comma. Pulling her coat more tightly around her in the cold air. We're kind of overloading on cold here, but it's just a sample. The next thing we can add is how words are said. We'll always have Paris, said Rick, in a sincere tone. Oh, I hate that.
What about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have...
Sense details, noises, tastes, smells. Sense details. Suddenly there was the sound of the transport plane starting its engines. Okay? The film can add all of this kind of effect. Then we can also add what the characters thought. I said I would never leave you, said Ilsa, comma, thinking how much she loved this man despite of everything. Okay? Well, I didn't say we're going to improve it. Rick answered, and the last thing we can also put in the characters' memories. Rick answered, and you never will. She remembered the last time they had parted. This was so different. Most often we're best off leaving very good and strong dialogue alone and letting the characters' words speak for themselves as much as possible. Well, as we can see, there's no real improving on the dialogue out of the film Casablanca, but at least we can see how these things work in writing and how we can add some of these things to dialogue of our own.